From a picturesque country lane called Industrial Park Road, in a building that also houses people in the Witness Relocation Program. And we also think Waldo is here. This is AirHamptons with Bridget and Bill.
And here we are. April Fools, everybody. We're going to do a show today.
And we have the biggest fool on the planet, Bill McCuddy, along with
Jim Turner, our one-man band.
Jim Turner, our one-man band. Jim, you always play funny stuff as far as I'm concerned.
Even unintentionally.
I try to keep a straight face.
Well, listen, we are talking about April Fools and humor and comedians. Do you have any memories of April Fool's jokes that have been...
I'm afraid my mind went blank, and I don't want to spoil the party, but I'm not fond of these kind of pranks, where you hear stories about that guy, the thing with the Rolling Stones where Mick Taylor apparently put Ben Gay and Keith's dentures. And, somehow this thing about...
I love that.
Stuff, but
it is mean, though.
But you know what? I was going to say that because...
That's your point. That's
exactly what I was going to say. I agree with Jim Turner for once, and I'm saying that... I just think it's a chance for parents to get back at their kids. My mom did the same April Fool's joke from when I was 3 until I was 53. Bridget, look, there's monkeys on the lawn doing somersaults.
And you fell for that every time?
At least until 49.
Wow.
I would say. I know. But it's really a chance for parents.
1949 or until you were 49?
Until I was 49.
Okay.
That was a joke. That was my... And look, you laughed.
I did laugh.
Cool.
That's funny. But, there really isn't much funny about April Fool's jokes. They're cruel.
They're cruel.
They're mean.
It's mean.
And we're going to spend an hour talking about them.
We are. Do you have any recollection of, April Fool's jokes?
My recollection is they're just not that good. As a comic, you want something funny. And I'm not saying one time on the Tonight Show. It's you want it to be clever and cool, and they so rarely are.
My daughter had one, I just remembered, that was the most brilliant April Fool's prank. I'm giving a love to my daughter, Georgia. I got all these messages from people. It's when we were moving out of our house in New Hampshire and here, so there were a lot of calls coming in anyway, lawyers and realtors and everything like that. And everybody who left a message said, blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, do you have any Grey Poupon? And I was like, what is going on? And Georgia had hacked my, because I always use the same password as I have since I was a kid. She hacked my voicemail. I'm not telling you. I'll tell you after the show. And she had changed my message to say, it's April Fool's. Leave whatever message you need from my mom, but at the end, ask her if she has any Grey Poupon. But I just could not figure it out.
Did you have a Rolls Royce?
No, but it was pretty fun. Not at that time. I had. No. But it was actually pretty cute. But, there's cute ones and there's kind of passive-aggressive ones.
Well, for some reason, this caught on. It started in the 1500s when their Gregorian calendar took over from the Julian calendar. I think we all remember that. And they screwed up and started celebrating New Year's on April 1st, which was now the wrong day. And if you did that, you were called an April Fool. So...
I'm still writing the Julian calendar on my checks.
On your checks?
Yes.
Another theory is that it's related to the arrival of spring when nature, quote unquote, fools us with fickle weather. That makes a little more sense. But being Scottish, a little bit, a fifth Scotch, I always say, in McCuddy, others think that it has something to do with the vernal equinox, and the Scottish think that the April Gauk is a cuckoo or a simpleton. Huh. So as a simpleton, I have to agree.
Okay, well, there you go. It's from the simpleton's mouth. You're listening to AirHamptons with Bridget and Bill, and we're going to be back in a minute. Jim, will you play us out with something foolish?
Something funny?
Somebody say, yeah. I'll show you how to do it, Louis Armstrong.
Yeah. Boom. All right. Welcome back. We are going to talk now with one of our favorite regular guests here, and he's going to tell us if there's anything funny about real estate. He has also worked with some very famous, funny people in his television years. One of the producers and a little thing called Good Day New York. And then he and I worked together, first at America's Talking and then the Fox News Channel. He is our favorite Hamptons chatter guy. And Patrick McLaughlin, welcome to...
Thanks,
April
Bill.
Fool's edition of
I love that.
AirHamptons.
I love that Julian. What's the Julian calendar?
I have no idea. I'd never heard of that.
Up. I mean, really.
Do you know? I did. Oh, I pulled a great April Fool's joke on Bill once a long time ago.
You did. I have to.
When we were working together at Unsaid Network. I emailed everybody. I said, start emailing Bill and say, I'll bring potato salad. And I said, Bill, let's pretend Bill's having a potluck at his house. And people started emailing you and saying, I'm going to bring potato salad. Oh, let me know. I'll bring desserts and cookies. Let me know what I can bring. I'm not sure. And Bill's like, what the hell is going on? But that was...
Look,
that's
I don't know
clever.
how you feel about Roger Ailes if you're listening to this. He started a little thing called the Fox News Channel. But when we were on something called America's Talking, which is now called MSNBC,
yeah.
we all got a basket from Rayo's that had, or no, it was Patsy's. And it had Patsy's like sauce and everything in it. And it said, all the best, Roger Ailes on it, on a big bow.
Right.
Every time people came to my house for a party or anything, this potato salad thing never happened. But like when people came to my house, I hung the bow on a different thing, like a bike or a microwave
Very
Oh my
oven
gosh.
or a new stereo.
That is
and
so
people
clever.
would show up going, Ailes is giving him all these gifts.
That's
And
really
the last time, I'll never forget, Mike Jarrett came to the house and it was on like my car. I'd gotten a little convertible sports car and I put it on the windshield and he goes, you're just putting the same card on
funny. They finally
all
figured
these
it out.
different things. He finally
very
figured
funny.
it out.
Well, so what's going on? What are we here
Yeah,
to
what's
talk
funny
about?
in the Hamptons in April?
Well, what's not funny? You want to start with that?
Yeah.
What's
They're adding
happening
a
April?
5% tax on
What?
all real estate transactions starting April 1. This is for the community fund for affordable housing. So it's a good thing.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
good thing. And what they're going to do is they're going to use this, it's actually, once again.
So
why am I
this is different
tongue-tied?
than the Peconic Land Trust.
This is in
that
addition
gives
to the
the
Peconic Land
buys-
Right,
Trust.
that's
It's a half
what
of it's a half a percentage point, and they're going to use it to help first-time home buyers, people with legal advice. The idea is just to make housing more affordable.
Right,
in
to
the
make
Hamptons, and
it-
Lord knows we need it. So.
Yeah, so it's like putting aside a prudent reserve for
Correctamundo.
So make housing more affordable with another tax.
Yes,
Well,
that makes sense.
Well, it's a tax that's going to help first-time homeowners and probably people who.
But
house in
affordable
urban
housing in the Hamptons is like the garbage barge, right? Like nobody wants it. Remember that thing about 20 years ago that they couldn't find a port for? It was all this garbage and it
No,
was
that's
floating
not
That
all
was
over the
I think
world.
they sent it to Staten
and
Island.
They never. they made Staten Island out of it.
Yes, they do. No, they actually have some nice places. I mean, Whalebone Village, and
Yeah.
there's things like that have a long waiting list to get into. They're
Every
very
town
nice
goes,
apartments.
put it in the other town.
Yes, of course.
Of course
Right?
they do. Of
They
course
always do. This is the Hamptons, after all. But still, it's
Well,
a
I
real
heard,
need, right?
I heard they were actually, the park right next to where the Stop and Shop is in East Hampton, Herrick Park. They were talking about building affordable housing there. April Fools.
I was like, we didn't even know what to say.
You had us for a second.
Oh my
Yes, that
God.
was good.
Any other good April Fool's gags that in your time on either television or in the Hamptons? We're still getting cards and letters about the great one you told a few episodes ago about the
people
realtor
who
that
moved to
left
the-
the key under the
Yes,
floor mat
and the
the
wrong
people
person.
came home and it was the wrong.
I don't know. Well, I did one time when I was managing in real estate tell the agents that we were going to take the back half of our office and make it a Starbucks. And what we were going to do is take all the desks in the back office and get what I called bunk desks. And if anyone had vertigo, let me know so I didn't put you on a top tier desk. And people were like panicking, like, what is this? I don't want to
Wait,
sit.
at first they were probably thrilled there was going to be a Starbucks in the
I
office.
said it was going to be good for office, and we were going to get a discount. It was going to be good for the office. We were going to increase traffic.
like
We
that.
worked together, and I was not there when you did that, but I remember you coming in with lots of fun little things when I worked at the office in Sag Harbor and the office in Bridgehampton.
Fun
We had
little
fun.
things.
Wait, you had in everything else you've done, you also sold real estate?
Well, no, I was the receptionist. I don't know what the
Administrative
correct-
assistant.
Thank
She
you.
did a lot of the paperwork and the
Yes,
exclusive
I
paperwork.
did
Oh, that's
when
a sitcom
when I
begging
moved
to be
back
written.
here. Yes,
There was a
right.
real estate sitcom
Rich
with
girl turns
Ellen
receptionist.
DeGeneres years ago called Open House.
Open House.
And I think it lasted like 5 episodes.
Ellen DeGeneres played at this performance.
She played that
The
part.
part
yes,
of Bridget
yeah.
LeRoy was played by Ellen DeGeneres.
Yes, there
and
you go.
a famous Alison LaPlaca.
Yes, she was on
the
every Fox
actress.
series
She
back
was
in the
on
day.
every show. She was going to be the next big thing. She was the Terry Polo. Remember Terry
Yes,
Polo?
yes.
From the Meet the Parents, and then she made a couple of things. Everybody got a
She
Fox
was the
show.
Gretchen Mole of Terry Polos.
You guys are
There's an
getting too
April Fool.
esoteric.
Yeah, poor Gretchen Mol. Well, in England, a fool is called a gob, a gobby, or a gobby, and we are learning all about foolishness today because we're talking about humor. A little later on, Woody Harrelson. I had the a chance to sit in on a conversation with he and the director of Triangle of Sadness.
And we're also going to be
an
talking
upbeat
to
comedy.
Amanda Green, who has written many Broadway shows and has a new one that's very interesting and not what you would usually think of as comedy, but we're going to talk to her.
And I sat down and talked to Caroline Hirsch, and I will relay all of what happened there. She had Caroline's on Broadway. That went away, sadly. It was one of my favorite clubs, and now she's doing other things. That
Maybe she
I
could
will
have
tell you.
Jimmy Fallon come on and.
yeah,
Since he
that's
would
a
be
great-
a good funny guy to have on the show.
Got to
don't you
have
think?
Jimmy Fallon.
He lives right around the corner, not on Industrial Drive, but
No, he lives on. I'm not going to say the name of the street so people don't drive by it. But what I am going to say is that he did a cool thing, which he bought an old house out here, and he
Right.
didn't tear it down.
Yeah, he didn't mess it up.
He didn't
Exactly.
no,
bulldoze
it's a
it.
really cool house. I showed
It's a
it before we
farm
bought it.
Victorian kind of house, and he'd be a great guest.
Why
We
has he
should-
not been on the show?
Jim,
I don't know. We're
you
gonna
know, Turner was talking earlier about how he being not Jim, but the great
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, the great Jimmy Fallon. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a second. Loves to do impressions of different musical people, like
Neil
great-
Young.
He could come on the show and jam with Jim.
He could do
the
Jim.
jamming of the Jims.
Maybe he'll
Jimmy
do Jim.
Jams.
So this
Jimmy
will be our
Jams.
this will be
That
our
would be awesome.
ongoing. This is our new.
This is our new thing. We're making
new
it a
thing.
thing as of right now. Jimmy Fallon, come on this show.
charge.
Well, Jim
Fallon,
Turner
if you're
declined.
listening.
He declined Prince Charles's coronation. So
Oh, there
I
you
mean,
go.
he's in demand.
Wow, you are hot on the April Fools.
Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. Hamptons Chatter is where all the latest Hamptons
.com.
stuff is.
It's .net.
It's
.net.
.net and .com.
Oh, okay.
Because he spends, baby.
Fools.
He bought them both.
Woohoo!
Big
Party
time.
time.
Always good seeing you guys. Fun being
Thanks,
here.
buddy. Jim, play us out, and
C'est
we
San
will be
Fran's
right
bon
back.
fromage.
We have the great Josh Gladstone joining us.
We do, and Tom Clavin.
And
who's
Tom
gonna be
Clavin.
next.
Clavin will tell us the funniest movies. What are the 5 funniest movies you can think of? In the meantime, this would be the soundtrack for it, I guess.
And
Funnier. Make it funnier, Turner. There we go. Nice.
that was
Very good.
good.
Well, now it got a
job.
little bluesy, which
Now,
is never funny.
Before we go to Clavin, you were talking about the English. Okay, that's enough. Thank you, Jim
Okay, good.
Turner.
Thank
Cut it
you,
out.
Jim.
Okay, now you're getting on my nerves. Was in England in
Jimmy Fallon just called. He now has no desire to play with you. No, I'm
In
kidding.
1698 in England was the first kind of published April Fool's joke,
Oh.
which they wrote, somebody placed something about at the Tower of London, they were going to be washing the lions, and you could come and watch the lions getting washed. Which was, it was funny. And then they proceeded to do that same joke for 200 years in the press. They did it all the way through 1897. They put that in every year. They never changed it. The washing of the lions at the Tower of London.
And
I guess when you have a good shtick, you stick with it.
that was. But they'd need a good shtick to start with.
Well, but but there are no lions, and what
That
they
was
would
the
do,
gag?
yeah, and then people would show up and they'd probably go, "Oh, you're all here. Who wants to be beheaded today?" That's I imagine that's.
So
what
they
happened.
never washed the lions.
There are no lions.
Oh, I see. Oh,
There aren't
then it
even
is-
lions
Well,
in
that
the
makes it
Tower
kind
of
of
London.
funny.
It's silly.
Hey,
Okay,
what's your
anyway.
favorite funny movie?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. It's hard. I mean, I kind of like the mainstream ones, but like
Animal House.
God, yeah, Animal House is great, but I was thinking more of the like
I
Wedding
think
Crashers.
of you as highbrower than that.
Oh gosh, no, not at all.
Highbrower,
I
is
don't know
that
why.
what-
The Hangover, Role Models, which is really inappropriate. I have to plug my kids' ears during those ones and hide their faces.
Well, we have a movie maven, as we do every
do.
week or every month. How often is this show on? I'm never sure. They just wheel me in here and I do it.
It's every day, every single day.
We're here at LTV, by the way, in the picturesque Wainscott, New York, and heard on WLIW. But we always enjoy a visit from Tom Clavin because he's the movie guy that does the deep dive.
You got to say movie maven. I mean,
Movie
really,
maven,
he's,
yeah,
he's
All right,
handed
Why
it
did I
to you.
gotta change my name?
And
Yeah,
what,
right,
What
exactly.
are you,
Something else. Well, I have kind of a two-parter here. The first one is very subjective list of top 10 comedies for me.
Okay.
If I was on a deserted island and I had a DVD player, these are the 10 DVDs I would bring.
That's
Oh,
where
this
all,
is good.
Oh wait, that's where all the DVD players have gone.
God, which is very foolish because if I was on a deserted island, I would want food, water, and Jennifer Aniston.
Well, or yeah.
Forget the DVDs.
No, I would probably want the DVDs. But so what's on your list, Tom?
Airplane, in alphabetical order.
Yes.
Airplane. But I want to put in a plug for Soul Plane. If you haven't seen that movie,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
one of
that
the
was
funniest,
the-
most vulgar films you'll ever see.
Oh, sounds like
with
it's right
Snoop
up my
Dogg
alley.
as the pilot, who doesn't make it all its way to the end of the film.
It's priceless.
Okay.
Can you see him as the pilot, or
Yes.
is there just like a,
We have crew
big
member-
waft of smoke?
Well, as the film goes on, the pilot, the cockpit gets smokier and smokier and smokier.
and every African American comic is in that, right? Like Eddie Griffin,
Kevin
and-
Hart, when he was like in middle school.
Really?
Well, we have members of our crew right here who are laughing, so I guess
Soul
it's-
Plane.
Soul
All right.
Plane is
I
very
I
funny.
did not think of Soul Plane.
Again, alphabetical order. Animal House comes next.
Yeah, so good. I'm glad it's on your list.
I was thinking of a Woody Allen movie, and I picked Annie Hall, although Sleeper is kind of a
I
sleeper
think
movie.
Sleeper is funnier.
It's
You know
very
what? I
funny.
actually am a
Giant
huge fan.
banana.
I love Love and Death, but you have to know your Russian history and your Russian literature. But it is very funny.
Sleeper has the
I love a good
the
gulag gag.
orgasmatron.
Yes, I love the Orgasmatron.
The orgasmatron is
The
cute.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
You gotta,
yeah.
you gotta go with the dude.
Yeah,
Or the-
everybody-
or
the dude
dudes to
abides.
Deuterino.
Yep.
Yes.
I had to pick a Chaplin film. I picked City Lights.
I love City
There's
Lights.
all kinds of good slapstick thing. The thing about City Lights is if you watch the whole way through, it's got a really poignant, heartbreaking
I
ending.
know. That's why I went like, I love City Lights. It's Paulette Goddard, that one, right? Isn't that the
He
one?
made a lot of important
It was-
message movies.
He did. As he got older, and
Yeah.
he could.
And isn't City Lights with the song Smile, which he also wrote?
I think so.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie.
He was a really good composer.
Yeah.
Here's an unusual one, Doctor Strangelove. It's
Or How I
very
Learned
funny.
to Love the Bomb. What's
How
the
I
rest of
learned
that?
to
That was a-
start. How I learned to stop worrying and love,
Love the Bomb.
Love the
Jeez,
Bomb.
you guys.
That
If
was-
you just
I gotta
listen
do
to
everything.
and the funniest of the funniest people, aside from Peter Sellers, who's very funny, is George C. Scott, who you would not consider a comedian. But if you listen to his lines as the general,
Is
that's
he the-
starting to embrace the idea of nuclear war as a good thing.
Does he talk about the precious bodily fluids? Is
That's
that him?
Sterling Hayden.
Oh, that's Sterling Hayden.
Sterling
Okay,
Hayden
right,
was
right.
allegedly drunk every day
Of his
and-
life.
and they would gauge whether he was capable of doing his lines that day or not. And
Oh, the good old days. What's next on your list?
By the
Tom?
way, though, I just want to say there's every Monday night at the Sag Harbor Cinema, there's a great trivia game, and the rest of that title, Dr. Strangelove, How I Learned to, the secondary, or what do you call the sub name, or the
Subtitle. Yeah.
subtitle
Yeah.
was the question. Like everybody knew
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Strangelove, but
Or
could you
How
say-
I
and
Learned to
nobody
Stop
could
Worrying
get-
and Love
Nobody
the
got
Bomb.
the whole thing right like you just.
Well, of course I got it right.
It's a tricky one.
Go ahead.
Groundhog Day.
Oh, I
That's
love
pretty
that
much a
movie.
staple. Yeah.
That's
And on a
great.
desert island, you could watch that over and over.
Over and over again.
Over and over.
Each
It holds up.
day would go by. And for an old one, His Girl Friday. With Cary
Girl-
Grant and
yeah.
Rosalind Russell doing
Sure.
the genre bending idea of the front page newspaper thing.
Right.
It's really the dialogue is fast. That's the epitome of what they used to call screwball comedy.
Right. See, hey. But
I
His
think
Girl
that
Friday.
I think I've
oughta-
read too that was like 160 pages instead of 120 or whatever the normal like
So they had to
length
do it
was.
faster?
So
Yeah, they had to
but
speed it up.
It was written so that
right,
that
right,
rat-a-tat-tat
why I
thing.
oughta. Yeah.
I had to pick a Mel Brooks movie.
Yes.
Barely winning was The Producers. Young Frankenstein was close. Blazing Saddles.
It was down.
I mean, he all made all these pictures within a few years of each other, so it's pretty amazing.
I think if you're listening to this and you've seen the producers, the one to see is one of the ones that you haven't seen yet.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein. High Anxiety is pretty funny, too.
Oh, yeah, it is. And silent movie.
Here's your paper.
Yeah.
That's Barry Levinson.
That's right. What else do you have?
Number 10 on the list is Toy Story.
Aw.
Toy Story is a very funny movie
It
for
is.
adults. It's really funny for adults.
Yeah.
John Ratzenberger, Don Rickles, the
great.
whole cast and crew, Tom Hanks.
You know what I'm going to say about Toy Story? They get actually better. Like this is never true in sequels normally, and rarely ever in comedy. But like Toy Story 3 or the last one is probably the most touching.
It is.
The toys move
Because I think
out and-
because I think they thought it was going to be the last one. Now they just announced Toy Story 5 with
Right.
Tim Allen coming back.
I wish
Well,
I
I'm
could
being
act
told we
surprised.
only have a minute left, which
Okay.
is very quick.
I'm going very quickly then. I picked 5 movies which have laugh out loud scenes.
Okay.
Okay.
All of Me, which is the scene where
Edwina back,
Back
in
in
bowl.
bowl.
Tomlin
Back
is-
in bowl.
Back
Lily
in bowl.
Tomlin is inhabiting Steve Martin.
Yeah.
She's supposedly asleep, so you can put the moves on Victoria Tennant. When she wakes up, she goes, "Bad girl, naughty girl," and she's like, "Yes, more of that,
I'm a
please."
bad poodle.
Yes, more of that.
Yes, yes.
Bridesmaids, when the meal they ate goes south to the intestines.
I absolutely love that movie. Except, I mean, that scene is, but I love the
Gross,
script.
but
I thought it was
it's
brilliant.
very funny.
Brilliant movie.
Night at the Opera, when they pile everybody into the State House and somebody comes along
Yeah.
and opens it, everybody pops
Everybody
out,
piles out.
laugh out loud. Let's see, my other Tootsie.
Oh, Tootsie.
Tootsie's on my list, 1982.
But my favorite scene, which is laugh out loud funny, where he comes in dressed as
Yes.
Tootsie to sit with Sidney
Bill
Pollack
Murray. Oh,
at the Russian tea room.
yeah.
And
I
he
was going to mention the
reveals-
Russian tea room.
And Sidney Pollack understands that this is Michael. You know, I told you to get therapy.
Right.
And last
Sidney
but
Pollack was always great when he acted.
He
didn't
was.
do it very often.
Which
But
is
what
too
I used to
bad.
say about him is, if he says it in a movie, it's the truth.
and everybody, what's the biggest laugh out loud scene that you've probably ever seen in a movie?
I don't know.
When Harry met Sally.
Oh, that
She
scene.
does, she does
Of
the
course.
orgasm, and then
I'll have what she's
mother
having.
says, "I'll have what she's having."
Yeah, and that's Rob Reiner's mother.
Put in a quick pitch for still seeing movies in the theaters. There's nothing like laughing out loud. With
Yes,
200
with an
200
audience. I agree 100%.
Totally.
We will
100%.
always have what Clavin is having. Thank you for joining us,
Thank
sir.
you very much for having me here.
All right. Then there is more. What's the soundtrack? What's on the soundtrack next? Nice.
And we're going to be coming back with Josh Gladstone, who is going to be joining us and talking about comedy on stage.
I want to
humor.
give a quick shout out to a movie that I thought was amazing called A New Leaf with Walter Matthau and Elaine May.
well, Elaine
from
wrote it.
1971 that not a lot of people know about.
Oh, I do know, but because she wrote it. Elaine wrote
Yes,
it, and Mike
she
Nichols
wrote it.
directed it.
Carbon on the Bow.
That was a brilliant film.
Walter Matthau.
And, you know, if I had one that I'd say is my favorite kind of unsung movie, it would be The Tall Guy with Jeff Goldblum, where he is an
Yeah, you
actor.
told me that the
It's
other
brilliant.
day.
He's an actor in England. Rowan Atkinson is
Mr.
in,
Bean.
yes, he plays kind of himself, and Jeff Goldblum is kind of the silent actor who is the straight guy,
Oh.
but he's cast in a musical production of The Elephant Man. And that's all I'm going to say. It's kind of like The Producers,
Oh,
but
that's
like a
hol-
low budget. It's
Oh, I gotta see that.
It's such a good movie, and it's very, very funny. But
Hey, tell us
speaking-
about our next guest
Well, what can I say about Josh Gladstone that hasn't been said already?
in divorce court.
No,
In-
not
in,
at all. Josh, in fact, Josh and his wife Kate Muth are artistic mavens of the Hamptons, and Josh has recently joined the staff here at LTV in Wainscott after a long.
Which we're going to desperately try and talk you out of. What happened there?
and
It's been such a storied
and we're not going to
career.
mention his hat at all. If
No,
you're listening on
for those of you listening,
WLIW FM,
he is the. We mentioned Woody Allen earlier. He is the jester
yes,
today.
you are the jester. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
And
It's
welcome
nice
to
to be here. Thank
Well,
you.
And
We'll
nice
change
to
that.
see you at LTV. I remember seeing you at LTV a million years ago in the Scottish play, perhaps, or was it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Playing a fool.
Yes.
The porter at the gate. Knock, knock, here's a knocking indeed. If a man were porter of hell gate, he should have old turning the key. Yes. Oh, I won't go on. I won't go on.
Something like that. No, but that's true. And that's one of the things I did want to ask you, which of course probably threw you for a loop when I said it, but the role of the fool, this is the April Fool's edition, the role of the fool in drama since time immemorial has always been the make 'em laugh.
A device that's
A
been there
device.
from day one, right?
And you might even say an archetype.
Yeah.
Something that comes from the deep recesses of the subconscious, of the shadow realm, the truth speaker. He who can say what no one else will say. He who wears the coxcomb because that is the badge of honor for freedom, for that which must not be said except by the subconscious shadow walker, or should I say shadow dancer, because the fool dances across the boundaries of the subconscious and is one of the earliest symbols, going back to the first card of the tarot,
I was
going
gonna
back
say
to
that.
fairy tales, where there's the trickster archetype and there's the fool. Not necessarily the same, but often
Right,
related.
because the
and you
trickster's
see
more
that.
sneaky and the fool comes from a childlike place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what makes them so desirable to play? What's the attraction there for an actor when they say, I'm the truth speaker, or what's the thing that makes it the...
Well, it's fun, isn't it? It's a
It
bit of
really
fun.
is. I mean, especially when you're sitting through something that's as serious or tragic as a Shakespeare tragedy, and then suddenly you have a scene with the porter or Falstaff comes in or whoever comes in. It's such a moment for the entire audience to have like a moment of laugh relief. right? All together, and to share
Yes.
that, like Clavin was saying, see it in a theater or see a movie
Yeah.
all together, because then you have this collective moment of joy
It's a
before
license,
they hit you on the head again.
right? I mean, there are certain things that you cannot say in public, but yet you go to Caroline's comedy, and with the timing and with a drink, and it's actually the thing that releases the tension for all of us, because they'll say the thing that is not otherwise said in
Although
the
we're
world.
in a time when a lot of that is being quashed, where we're being told, no, you can't make fun of this anymore, you can't do that anymore. I mean, the idea of the comedian as the person that can say what we're all thinking is getting, I would say, at least muted a little, huh?
Well, there are those that, look back at comedies. I was just reading an article about Ben Stiller's piece today, where they're looking to do a sort of cancel culture on that film he made with Robert Downey Jr.
Tropic Thunder, which
Yes.
of course
Thunder,
is
it's one of her favorite
absolutely one of my
Spoken about it.
favorite.
It's a brilliant piece from 2008.
It will cure anything that ails you. Tropic Thunder.
And there are those who are saying that Robert Downey doing it in blackface is completely
it's horrible.
inappropriate. But there are many, even in the black community, who have rallied to the defense of the film and said it's a satire. And therefore, the license to satirize is
And the whole
there.
joke that this pompous actor thought he could play that role and talks them into it and is the whole gag. I mean, that's the whole idea. It's really putting all of that on its head. But
True.
this many years later, we love to go, wait, how did that happen? How did we make that?
So this is the April Fool's edition. So throwing you another curveball, have you had any April Fools that have ever played on anyone, or had
Or
any
been the victim
brilliant
of
ones that
something?
you've been victim of?
Because I said they're all no good. If you can tell me a good one, I would love
The
to
Great
hear it.
Poupon one was pretty good with my daughter. Come on.
It's pretty good.
My mother, I'll forgive her now, but I'll never forget when I was in grammar school and bit into my peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Oh, dear.
and buried within the peanut butter were the prior evening's hot red peppers from the Chinese food order. And there were maybe 4 or 5 of them in there, so I got the full dose.
Well, that's not very funny.
no,
but-
I think I probably cried.
Oh no!
this is your
April Fools.
Yeah,
This is back to your
it's
theory
just-
My
about
mother.
Yes, I know.
Treacherous wench.
Yes,
She
she
may
is.
be watching. I don't know.
It scarred her to this. It scarred you to
Scarred
this
me.
day.
Yeah, that's what I said. Is that I think that it was kind of a one day a year, at least in this country, for parents to like blow off steam and get back those little
You
creeps
did
for
that
doing
to your
everything.
children as well.
No, I was actually
Horrible human being.
Jen is really the worst. My mother.
bet.
Yes, monkeys on the lawn. Ask her. If I called her right now, I'd say, "Mom, what's your favorite April Fool's joke?" She'd say, "Oh, there's monkeys on the lawn." I go, "Where? I loved monkeys. There were never any monkeys."
That's a book title.
Mean,
Monkeys on the Lawn.
mean. Yes, monkeys on
Hey,
the lawn.
what's coming to LTV? I know you're involved here in some of the changes creatively and what's going to be going on.
This summer.
Can you tease us with what some of the programming may be or what you're looking at?
I can. We are going to bring back a wonderful program that was founded by Mitzi and Perry Pazer in East Hampton about 30 years ago, called the Playwrights Theater of East Hampton. And Perry just gave us his blessings as well as underwriting to bring that series here. And what it is it's a celebration of the written word, which you know something about in development. And this was a series that ran for many years at LTV. I actually saw it here and brought it over to the John Drew Theater during my time there. And then this was all maybe 5 or 6 years before the pandemic, and she was not well, and the Playwrights Theater sort of receded. But in its heyday, we had wonderful actors. I remember, speaking of comedians, Jack Klugman was a part of it, and Charles Durning, you talk about Tootsie, was a part of it. And
We're
Len
here?
Cario. That was actually at LTV. I was at John Drew Theater, but when it was here, they had wonderful performers too. Tova Feldsha and
Yes.
Mercedes Rule did some, I believe,
Well, and
some
you were
programs
behind
here.
some table readings at Guild Hall as well.
Yes.
And so maybe we could see a little more of that too.
We're gonna. That's the Playwrights Theater is predicated on the idea of bringing work by the writer in process. And I think LTV Studio, with its 175 seats and its flexible space, but not a traditional theater space, but it's a great space to hear emerging work and to interact with the writers afterwards and have conversation.
This is, I've always said, a black box
Yes.
in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of it. As we mentioned, witness relocation off Industrial Park Road. But like, they don't have any restrictions in terms of what they can and can't do here. So we prove that every month.
Oh, which we sure do.
But we appreciate that more of that is going to be happening under you.
We also are looking to invite all kinds of performing arts from throughout the community. We have a musical program scheduled for the first Sunday in July with the Pollock Krasner House, where they're bringing an Indian tabla master.
Oh, wow.
Ustad Shafat Khan is bringing a concert here, and the reasoning for that is that Jackson and Lee would listen to Indian ragas while they painted and in their home. And a big part of the exhibition that Helen Harrison is putting together has to do with their world and their domestic life and their Rolodex and their friends.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
these Indian artists were a big part of their life.
So
and so
it's-
she said, do you know any Indian artists? And I said, as a matter of fact, Ustad Shafat Khan is a genius. So they were available for a performance date. So you'll be able to
Be
see
a
some
sitar here?
Yes. there'll be
And some kirtan?
yes.
Is there going to be some call and response stuff?
Well, maybe. I don't know the exact run of show, but if you start calling out, he'll probably respond.
It's supposed to go the other way. I think he's supposed to do it, and we're supposed to respond. But sure.
She calls out all the
heckle.
time.
I'll heckle.
You're welcome. We have a hip hop musical coming under the banner of the Playwrights Theater. It's a new piece called "At the Bus Stop," which is going to be performed with book in hand by the actors, but also with live music, live hip hop performance. That's on July, I want to say 15th. Without
how
my
exciting.
calendar
That won't be at a
in front
table.
of me.
They'll be up jumping
on a
around.
table.
Yeah.
It'll be performed on its feet, but again, book in hand. So these are not full productions.
I
but
really
we
have
may
to
get
say,
to that point.
I have to say, I love when Josh Gladstone shakes his head. You can't see it on the radio, but he's still wearing a fool's cap, and his little bells are jangling. So
in
it's
case
hard
you're
to take
listening
you
and wondering.
seriously.
I don't know why you would say that.
It's not his keychain.
Anyway,
Well, these are exciting developments here at
there's
LTV.
Lots of
Yeah,
really good
we've got a
stuff
lot
going
of. I
on.
mean, Michael Clark and the board, they have this remarkable resource. And Michael, when he came in here a few years ago, hats off to him because he really wanted to open the space up in many ways to the community. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. But I know you've been doing readings. I know there have been concerts. There's been community groups that have been welcomed here. And so he just said this is becoming a little more than I want to run myself. He's got
Right.
enough to deal with everything going on here.
He
with
has
the-
a passion
the
for music
broadcast.
and jazz, and
Yes.
they've been doing a lot of those things here.
It's
Every
great to
now
be
and
bringing
then,
back theater.
every now and then, Beyonce comes in, rents the place, and does a music video. So like, there's a lot going on in this building, and I
Yes.
think that the more that we can do here, the better.
And we do tape our show here at LTV. It's also broadcast on WLIW FM.
We
Long
can't stop
Island's
them. We've tried.
only NPR channel. And Josh, just quickly before you leave us, do you have any particular favorite kind of, I call them macaroni and cheese funny movies or funny TV shows that
Yeah.
you put
What's
on?
what makes you laugh?
Like something that's a comfort.
I don't watch movies.
Oh, sure you don't.
I go to plays. No, I of course I like There's something about Mary was a laugh out loud moment.
I actually watched
if
that
you
again.
recall.
There's another one we couldn't make now.
You probably might not be able to make it. I love the license of the Fool. This is Feste. This is from Twelfth Night, and he concludes the play connecting back to that childish heart, that open heart that comes from the Fool. When that I was and a little tiny boy, with a hey ho, the wind and the rain, a foolish thing was but a toy. For the rain it raineth every day, and the Fool sees the rain and turns it to sun. I'll leave you with that, and I'll also leave you with this because I've been hoping to jam with Jimmy and Jimmy.
Oh, okay.
And
Is that okay?
Josh has
What key is that in? It's a key
what's
of
it
I
called?
love when we
minor.
lose complete control of the show. Here, yes,
The
take
slide
it away, gents.
whistle, folks. And you're listening to an experiment in patience and public funding. And if you can still hear me, they haven't pulled the plug yet. This is AirHamptons with Bridget and Bill, and we'll be back with Amanda Green, Caroline Hirsch, Woody Harrelson, and my partner, Bill McCuddy.
It's almost too much show. Oh man!
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh and-
Okay, that was
and
something.
Jim. But you see, you never know what's going to happen here. I said anything can happen in this building, and we're living proof of it.
It's going to escalate, isn't it? We're going to have a whole slide whistle crew.
He
in here
talked
next time.
about doing some play readings here, which we've been doing at LTV. You sat down recently with someone who makes her living doing punching up and working on.
I did. I sat down with my oldest friend. Literally, our mothers got stuck in the revolving door at double days when they were pregnant with us. Amanda
What?
Green.
What? Wait, just
Yes,
stop. Say
yes.
that again. Say that sentence
Phyllis
again.
Newman, dropping some things. here.
Phyllis Newman.
In my not my swear jar, my name drop jar.
The
Yes.
great Phyllis Newman, who was a fixture on
Broadway and
lots of
film and
game
lots
shows.
of things. Yes, and she and my mother got stuck in a revolving door when they were pregnant with me and Amanda. And then Amanda and I went to school. And even when I switched schools, Amanda switched schools. And then first day at Brown University, who walks in as my roommate? But Amanda, we looked at each other. We were like, really? No one else would take us? So she has been one of my oldest and dearest friends forever. Her father, Adolph Green, wrote some of the great musicals and the great books, Singing in the Rain, The Bandwagon, and so on. When Adolph died, which was right after my dad died, again in the name drop jar, I sent Amanda and Phyllis a 20-pound ham, and they got it because that's who he was. So I was really lucky to sit down with Amanda and talk about her latest work. We're going to see that now.
Got it.
So, Amanda Green, thank you so much for joining us on AirHamptons today.
Bridget LeRoy, always my pleasure to talk to you.
We have known each other too long, my friend, almost.
That is true. That is true.
Forever. And I remember just the incredible like coming over to your house and hanging out with Adolph and Phyllis. And, tell us a little bit. We're doing this episode is about April Fools and about comedy. And you come from a line of comedians, intentionally or not. So
That's true. Yeah, my dad was Adolph Green, who wrote Singing in the Rain, as he would have proudly told you if he were here, and lots of other, The Bandwagon and On the Town and Wonderful Town and Bells Are Ringing. And my mom was the Tony Award-winning actress, Phyllis Newman. And
you know what I remember about your mom? Sorry, I know I do interrupt a lot. I was the Mad Woman of Central Park West. And how amazing she was. I knew Phyllis as like making me a sandwich if I slept over, kind of, and then to see her.
Your memory is playing tricks on you.
True.
Phyllis never made a sandwich.
True. No, but she'd get up and perform for me,
That she would do. Sandwiches she would not.
But anyway, so you come from this line of where being funny was kind of important. I mean,
Absolutely.
and you yourself have written many music. I mean, you do cabaret, of course, but you also have written these Broadway shows. Working on Mr. Saturday Night with Billy Crystal and writing some of the funniest lines, which I cannot repeat because most of them have some like F-bombs and so on. But rhyming kamikaze and Ashkenazi was truly a
Thank you. Yes.
Tell me about your experiences with whether comedy growing up or working with the great comedians you have. Tell me about that.
Gosh, well, comedy, the coin of the realm, as I always like to say it, around our dinner table was making each other laugh. My parents didn't censor themselves, so I learned some of the funniest dirty jokes as a kid, and I still tell them, you know what I mean? So it was not, it wasn't age appropriate, but they were funny. And if you could make the table laugh, that was a good night of dinner. And I still think, like, people are like, who's your audience? And I was like, it's probably that table. You know what I mean? Like, I still like, as I'm writing, I'm still like hearing their laughter. That's kind of what I'm going for.
I have to say they were always really generous with things like that, because then, of course, the comedian thing is when you tell a comedian a joke, sometimes they just go, oh, that's funny.
Totally.
But anyway, so you went into this, show business as well, and you've been in it for a long time. We grew up together, and you've had a lot of. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You wrote some very funny songs, and you know which one my favorite is.
Every time a friend succeeds, a little piece of me dies inside. Yes. I kind of found my niche, writing funny songs. And Oh, and I hear a noise. Don't you hear a noise?
I do. What is that noise?
Are you blow drying your hair? No,
Yes, I was. No, but you fixed it because you're magic.
I
You
am.
keep magic fix. So yeah, so tell me about the songs that you
Yes, every time a friend succeeds, a little piece of me dies inside was one of my first hits. I mean, that got me a lot of attention in New York. I sort of got my start or my finish singing in cabaret because I was sort of like, I was writing these funny songs and I was like, I'll sing them myself. And that got me attention. And gosh, I mean, funny songs I do write. I'd rather be with you than with the finest people. Who's worse than people? If you leave me, can I come too? I love writing
so great.
comedy songs. And I love writing musical comedy. And
Yeah, tell me about, I mean, your most recent, it was quite the hit, Mr. Saturday Night, working with Billy Crystal.
Working with Billy Crystal. I got the gig because Mark Shaman, who's a very famous and fantastic composer, actually came to me and told me about it. And he was like, you got to write to Billy Crystal and introduce yourself. And I was like, oh my God, I have to write to Billy Crystal and introduce myself. And I looked through my laptop and I found a picture that I was hoping I'd find. And it was a picture of me sitting on Milton Berle's lap as a kid. And Mr. Saturday Night is about a family of comics. So I was like, hi, I'm Amanda Green. I understand this world.
And you got the job.
I got the job.
We're getting that noise again. Oh, wow, listen. That's so cool. Are you frying bacon? It sounds like you're
I don't think it's me.
Well, I don't think it's me. Well, anyway, let's just continue then.
Let's pretend we're not here. One of us is blow drying bacon, maybe. I don't know.
Blow drying bacon, or there's just a ghost in the machine. So, you know what? Amanda was riding a Zamboni during this interview. She just got off.
Me.
But listen, so tell me about Female Troubles.
Yes, Female Troubles is the musical I'm working on now, and I've been working on it for several years, but COVID did everything. But it's an original idea that I came up with my collaborator, composer Curtis Moore, and it sort of combined lots of things we cared about. I care about women's reproductive freedoms, and I was like, I went to him and I said, here's the worst idea for a musical I ever had, Abortion the musical. And he was like, huh. And then he was like, well, maybe if it's in a different time period, and we both love Jane Austen. So all of a sudden we came up with this idea for a show that takes place in 19th century England, but a young lady who's unwed finds herself knocked up, and her maidservant shows her an ad for women with female troubles, and she offers a cure for women with female troubles. Right. And then we reached out to these incredible book writers who are, talk about funny, oh my God, Jen Crittenden and Gabby Allen, who were head writers on Veep. They have a show now called Housebroken starring Lisa Kudrow. They've written for all the funniest shows on TV, and they came aboard as book writers. So we've been working on it for several years. I can't tell you yet, but we will be premiering in 2024.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm totally excited. We've got producers, and Ariana DeBose has been a fan of the show for a long time, and she and Bonnie Milligan, who's currently starring in Kimberly Akimbo, just recorded a song, and we did a video, and we're going to release a video of them singing this duet next month.
What is the name of the song? Dare I ask?
It's not one of the funny ones. It's called A Woman Knows. But, but the show itself is kind of using the lens of yesteryear, of the 19th century, to talk about what's going on today. There's a song called "Can You Believe This Shit's Still Happening in 1810?" about how badly women are treated in 1810. But thank God,
right.
It won't be that way, So using humor to talk about.
That's great. And do you find yourself, as we age gracefully, we hope, do you find yourself changing what you think is funny? Or do you think there are some things that are always, always funny?
There are some things that are always, always funny. I pretty much, the stuff that made me giggle at 8 is pretty much still makes me giggle now. Some of the stuff I wrote that I thought, that is so funny, I'm like, is it? But the really funny stuff stays funny. I mean, look at Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Still as freaking funny. I mean, I wasn't around when it came out, but I thought it was hilarious as a kid. If you show it to a kid now, they will still laugh.
I even referenced because when we record this show where the microphones are and all of that, and I swear I was in the studio with Bill and our wonderful crew, and the mic was here, and I did, Pierre, you shouldn't have. And they all laughed. Everybody knows it. I mean, it's just iconic, and to know that you are descended from Adolf. Lovely, wonderful Adolf, who gave us
the insane head of Adolf Green.
Yes, from the insane head of Adolf Green. And Amanda, where can people find out more about what you're doing? Do you have like a website or anything like that?
No, I don't have a website. But they can find out.
Just read the dailies, for God's sakes.
The dailies. Look out for Female Troubles. You can watch Mr. Saturday Night on Broadway HD, which you can get on Amazon Prime. And I'm super proud of that. And all my stuff is on CD, all my shows. And I perform at Birdland sometimes. You can look out for me there. And like that.
Amanda Green AF. Does that mean what I think it means?
And Friends. I don't know what you're thinking.
Oh, of course. Well, listen, Amanda, as always, love talking to you, and I can't thank you enough for joining us on AirHamptons.
Always my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks,
Get
Bridget.
back on that Zamboni now. Thanks.
Okay. I'm gonna.
When you say daughter of Adolf, you have to qualify that really quickly, because with a name like Adolf, you have to say, what a great interview. And I'm glad that she gave one more shout out on this show to Broadway HD. We had the folks that
we had Bonnie and Stuart on last month.
And I just think that Mr. Saturday Night, I know this is the fourth time I brought it up probably in as many months, but I just think that that's the future of the way the rest of the country can go see Broadway.
Yeah.
You two, from the story about being introduced in vitro.
In vitro, yes.
Yeah, we're sort of like backstage kids growing up in these incredible families.
Yeah, it was me and Amanda, Sam Robards, and Alex and Jamie and Nina Bernstein. We were all like the kids of the Upper West Side, and Nicole Fosse. We were always hanging around backstage under everybody's feet.
So this whole backstage upbringing reminded me of another comedy that actually some of the folks here on the set were talking about, called My Favorite Year. And I forgot about that movie, and I shouldn't have, because it stars Mark Lynn Baker as a young guy behind the scenes of like Your Show of Shows, which is the
Right, he's a young comedy writer just coming his first year.
And he wants to get ahead, and they assign Peter O'Toole to him for the week that he's going to be the big guest star. And of course, the greatest line from that movie is, live, I'm an actor. I'm not, the greatest line that I've just barbecued.
Try it again. Take two.
Peter O'Toole doesn't realize that the show is live.
Right.
And when he does, he kind of freaks out.
Right.
He's an alcoholic, and Mark Lynn Baker is in charge of him. And I sort of had that job for a couple of summers in summer stock theater.
And no, just for people, when you say Your Show of Shows, let's make it more modern. Let's say SNL.
Yeah,
it was like a weekly live show.
Done in front of an audience
and so
at 30 Rock.
What were you writing for?
I was the guy that taught the actors their lines and babysat the difficult actors, and I won't name anybody.
But for what show?
But for different shows every week.
Oh, you're
so
kidding.
I was the guy that met them at the airport, took them to the hotel. They would start literally handing me a script, and we would run lines for the whole week, all during the rehearsals.
And you're not going to say any names, so nothing in the name drop jar, huh?
No, but they were. Agnes Moorehead was one of them.
Yes.
There were big people like that. Then there were comedians, apropos of this, like Maury Amsterdam, that came and didn't need me for the week. Like I was basically watching him do shtick and stuff. Because
like Alan King was
he
like
had an
that.
act, or Alan King would come and do like Take Her, She's Mine, or one of those like.
Well, Alan King would get off the plane with a shtick already going on, and then he would just like walk on stage, continue the shtick, and come and sit and have dinner and continue the shtick. It was like one big shtick.
But this was dinner theater. Well, it wasn't. There was no dinner. It was just theater in the round, and it was. If Alan King came, he'd be in The Odd Couple, let's say.
Right, I got you.
So that was my gig for that summer. 2 summers actually, when I was 15.
What did you learn? What sort of April Fools what kind of shenanigans
I learned
did
that,
you learn about?
I wanted to be. It was good to be the star.
Yeah.
That was very good.
It's good to be the king, as Mel Brooks says.
Listen, we mentioned Saturday Night Live a moment ago, and someone who last month was one of the, not more successful, but is a great comedian, is Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
He's in a movie called Triangle of Sadness, not one of my favorite movies. I've said before, I think The Menu is a better skewering of the 1%.
And I watched the trailer. There was a lot of vomit.
There's a lot of pooing and a lot of vomit in Triangle of Sadness. One of the things that happens around the Academy time is, as we're voting, we get to sit down with these people. And actually, I got a chance to listen in on Ruben Östlund, who's done some very funny movies like Force Majeure and The Square. He interviewed Woody Harrelson, and they're talking about what makes things funny. So I thought this was a perfect thing to add to the show today. He talks about something that every comedy needs, which is a dilemma. And he says all funny situations start with a dilemma. And here's the conversation he and Woody Harrelson have about that.
A dilemma is kind of interesting to talk about because a dilemma is something that is easy to identify with but hard to handle. So a dilemma, you have two or more options, but none of them are easy to make. And all of the options will have consequences. So as soon as you can spot the dilemma, then you have some energy to deal with. I think, both for the actors and for me when it comes to writing it. But I always try to do, like, if I don't believe in it, then something is wrong. I have to look at the screen and I have to believe in it. And then I feel safe. But if I don't believe in it, then I feel like, okay, this is something that is wrong. It's not funny because I don't believe in it.
And I really, as an actor, appreciated that because there were times when I was definitely just trying to move to getting a laugh as opposed to just playing the character for real and allowing the behavior to be, the behavior and the interaction over the dilemma between the characters, that be the thing that causes the audience to laugh. And you were great about that. You have a very true line of like, you feel it the second it goes the wrong way. I don't know. Anyway, I much appreciated that while we were filming. But I also liked when we do stuff and the scene just runs and runs and you're just letting it go just to see what happens. And there was some really funny stuff. Really funny stuff.
We need a dilemma. That's what we need.
We do.
That's where humor comes from, a dilemma.
Yes.
We do have a dilemma. I had a lovely conversation with Caroline Hirsch the
April
other
Fools.
day.
You couldn't get it off your
She
phone.
was the first lady of comedy. Caroline's on Broadway, and I went there every Monday night for about, 10 or 15 years.
You were part of her last set, right, at Caroline's? Weren't you?
For the last week, and we wrote about it.
Okay.
The dilemma is we don't have enough time to show you the interview, but I can tell you that she has not left comedy. She still produces with her partner a thing called the New York Comedy Festival. They do it every year, 150 different acts. I asked her who makes her laugh, and she said Tracy Morgan.
Really?
That even after the Walmart truck he was making jokes about, he wished he'd been hit by an Amazon truck because he would have made even more money. So he's somebody that makes her laugh. And she's also doing, and I want to have her on the show to talk about some very important documentaries she's doing. One of them is called The Conspiracy, and it's about anti-Semitism.
Oh, wow. That doesn't
that's
sound
on
like
the festival circuit right
not
now.
a comedy.
Not comedy.
No.
But she has done many about Jewish mothers or the mothers of comedians. So Caroline Hirsch will join us at a future time.
Well, Bill, it's been another extraordinary experience taping AirHamptons at LTV, and we're also can be listened to on WLIW FM. Long Island's only NPR station. And
If you can still hear this, they're still running it.
I want to
don't
thank all of
understand
our guests: Josh Gladstone, Amanda Green, Tom Clavin, Patrick McLaughlin. Who else did we have?
And the one-man band, Jim Turner, who will now play us out with something really funny. He's got about 10 seconds.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Have you heard my duck call?